Oh, yes. What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. It's 10 o'clock Central Time. I think you guys know what that means. It's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. And that means we're going to give you that sensual prelude that you've been looking forward to that goes before the balls deep breakdown when we really get into the stats tomorrow night. But tonight we are going to go through all 14 fights on this UFC Vegas 51 card that is going to be culminated, headlined, main evented by Vicente Luque versus Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad. You guys, I can't wait for that main event. It is an absolutely beautiful striker versus grappler, even though they're both good, like Bilal's a good striker and Luque is a good grappler, but the path for Bilal is with the grappling and the pressure, and the path for Luque is to keep it standing and to land one of those big bombs. Can't wait to discuss that matchup with you. But we've got 13 other fights besides that one to get through. We're going to give you the stats. We're going to give you the tape study notes. We're going to give you everything that you need to know in order to make you make the best and most informed gambling decisions that you can possibly make on UFC Vegas 51. And as always, you guys are coming along for the ride with me, man. And we got my guy Victor De Jesus in the room saying, "Oi, yes. What's up, Weezy and chat? Let's make these bookies cry this weekend." Got to do that, man. And I forgot, first let's recap last week's event. I was up 0.23 units. I only placed 3 solid size bets and then 2 tiny sprinkles. The sprinkles both lost. It was Kay Hansen by third round submission, an eighth of a unit, and it was Vince Pichel by third round knockout, eighth of a unit. Both of those failed. And then I had 1.55 units on Peter Yan by round 4-5 or decision at minus 155. That failed. And then I had the fight goes to decision for Dern Torres. So that cashed for 1 unit up. And I also cashed on, oh yeah, that's right, Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, you guys. How about it? Alexei Oleinik by first round submission is exactly what I called on Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Gave you a plus money ass shaving. I hope you guys came along for the ride with your Uncle Weezy on that one. We cashed that ticket. I was a split decision away. I was one judge with eyes away from getting that Peter Yan decision. I thought he won the first round, but I know that a lot of people out there actually thought that Aljo won that first round. And hey, we can agree to disagree. No big deal. Hey, that event is in the past. And UFC Vegas 51, the event that we can still stack cash tickets like flapjacks on, is right ahead of us. So let's try to find some ways to make some money on this event. Victor, as always, brother, good to see you in here. We got Chris for the Love MMA saying, "Oi, respect, Unc. I'll try to stay up through it. Work early in the AM. Good luck this weekend." Good luck to you too, my brother. Always good to see you in here. We got my guy Mushroom in here saying, "Found it. Sup, Uncle Weezy. Let's stack tickets like flapjacks and ass shave the bookies." You got that right, man. Blood Money MMA bets in the room saying, "Oi, what's up, Weezy?" And I see my boy Victor is here early too. What's up, bro? My guy Victor's always in the chat here. And one of the guys that's always in here as well, along with Blood Money, along with Mushroom, along with Chris, is my guy DFS by the numbers, the guy I do Stack Diggers with, the guy I also do the brand new show taking MMA Twitter and YouTube by storm. You can't even go around the water cooler where you work without people talking about prop ability. And that is coming up on Thursday. I think we're going to be doing it at 7:15 Eastern time, 7:30 Eastern time on the MMA Engine channel, a data-driven look into finding value in over-under lines and fight goes and fight doesn't go to decision lines. My co-host, my guy, DFS by the numbers, good to see you in here, brother. I hope you guys will be joining us for probability later on in the week. Pascal Roshan, another great supporter of the channel, saying the myth, the man, the legend, Uncle Weezy, ladies and gentlemen. It is good to see you here, Pascal. Thanks for hanging out with us. We got my guy Lou Betya in the room saying, Paloma or get the fuck out. Gonna need a few for this card. The big ass bottle of wine won't cut it. Well, you can always come out to Chicago, Lou Betya, and I'll make you a delicious Paloma. And believe me, you'll stop talking shit the second that one of these Palomas hit your lips and you say that, damn, that's refreshing. That's lovely. That's a beverage right there. And yeah, I have to enjoy it, dude, as I go through this card with you guys, because it's not the best card that we're going to see all year, but like any card, and like I always say, the best cards are the ones that we make money on. So if we can find some spots to hit where we got an advantage over the bookies, that's what we're going to be looking for here today, you guys. So thank you, Lou Betya, for hanging out. We got my guy Jacques Tits in the room saying, oi, let's do this. What's up, man? And yeah, Jacques Tits is a legend. He gave so many gifts to the world. Rest in peace, Jacques Tits. But we got Jacques Tits on YouTube hanging out here with his Uncle Weezy and with the rest of you guys, ready to break down some MMA. We got Paul Brassfield saying, oi, let's get money again this week, fellas. Let's do it, man. And Lou Betya saying, weirder looking human being, Fialo or Laramie? Weezy may be biased because one is a Simpson cigarette brand. And yeah, there is no substitute for the smooth, rich flavor of a Laramie cigarette. Weirder looking human being. I mean, dude, with Chris Barnett on the card, I'm surprised you're going with Fialo or Laramie here. But, there's a few weird-looking human beings in the UFC. But, man, I do love the smooth, rich flavor of a Laramie cigarette. It's got me – actually, I haven't smoked in years, but now I'm just thinking to myself, wouldn't it be nice to have, a great cigarette here? But, I don't smoke anymore, so I'm just going to have a sip of this beverage here before we move on. We got my guy Justin in the room here saying, I'm missing half of Sonic 2, so let's make some money. Let's go. Let's do it. PSSA saying, oi. And Mushroom saying, Laramie cigarettes. Great Simpson knowledge. Absolutely. Matthew Chalk saying, oi. We got Victor De Jesus saying, what's up, blood? And we got MMA Code saying, oi. And we got Andy MG saying, oi. Mushroom saying, what is he saying? He's saying wagering foreplay. Hell yeah, man. It's the sensual prelude to the Balls Deep breakdown. Matthew Chalkstein, I'm still sad about Jan. I am too, man. I am too. But, hey, look, Aljo won 2 rounds, absolutely clearly, no disputing that. And you could have even called the second round a 10-8. I'm surprised nobody did call that a 10-8. So, as I've gotten older and hopefully wiser and less dumb, I try to always look in the mirror with the betting decisions that I make and look for ways to improve coming off. Even though it was a winning week for me, I felt like it should have been up 2.75 units, but it was up like 0.22 something. Either way, I'm sad about Jan too. And of course, Aljo calls out TJ Dillashaw like he deserves this. I think I really hope to see them fight again. And hopefully in the next 4 or 5 months, man, I'd love to see that one get run back again. A very close fight the second time around. So I am sad about Jan, though. And we got my guy Kyle Kelly in the room saying, hey, Weezy, did you and anyone else notice how fucking small Ian Gary's head is, or was that just me? Seemed very abnormally small. Yeah. And I mean, like for a card where Alir Latifi was supposed to be on that card, and you recognize how gigantic of a head that dude has, and then you see somebody like Ian Gary. Maybe that's why he's got the striking defense can get a lot better, because he's got a very small head in comparison to his shoulders. Kind of looks like like Michael Dukakis back in the day if he was blonde and actually good looking. I mean, you ever see like. He was the opposite, I should say, of Dukakis. You ever see the size of Dukakis's head? Like his shoulders were that wide, and like the ears were actually going out past the shoulders. He looked like a stunt puppet from the Dark Crystal, to quote my man Dennis Miller there. But yeah, dude, kind of odd, man. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Kyle. Absolutely. We got my guy Thomas Howard saying, oi. And we got Mr. X saying, who's losing money on a 36-year-old PFL washout coming off a 2-year steroid suspension with me? I think you might be talking about Jesse Ronson. And I think a lot of people will, man. It's a closely lined fight. People are on both sides. And people, whenever it's that close of a fight, you're going to have people, making cases for both sides, and somebody's going to lose. But I don't know, man. I mean, like, was it a tainted supplement or was he cheating on purpose? There seems to be some discussion there, but hey, I don't know, man. It's going to be very interesting to see what kind of return he makes, especially at this age. Tiger saying, "Oi, oi, Uncle, what's up, Tiger? Good to see you, man." We got Prince of Mischief in here saying, "I can't wait. This is my first time watching you live." Oi, yes. Welcome, Prince of Mischief. It's good to have you here, brother. Andy MG saying, Weezy's ass shavings have been on fire. Let's cash again this weekend. Let's absolutely do that. And Thomas is saying, who's that, to Mr. X? And finally, an ass shaving that pays off. My girl makes me shave her butt, so good when a shaving makes you money. Well, I'm glad, man, because Alexi got it done exactly as I hoped he would. I even, as soon as he pulled guard, I was just like, yes, he's gonna win. I knew he would sweep him and get him. So, Jesse, the bankroll snatcher, Ronson. It is the body snatcher, Mr. X. Not touching that fight, says Thomas. DJ says, manscape them asses, my nieces and nephews. Let's get it, DJ. Keep it cool, saying it's Weezy time. Thomas saying, but I will be degenning on PFL next Wednesday. We got my guy Flavor Blasted Butthole saying, oi, Weezy, Bilal by KO. That's got to be astronomical odds. And I would be shocked if he was the first person to ever finish Vicente Luque via KO. But that would be something. It's a 5-round fight, so you never know. Danny Betts in the room, Pub Sports Radio's finest, saying, my guy Weezy, got to catch this video a little before I head to bed. Good to see you in here, Danny. Thanks for hanging out. We got Lou Betya saying, now I want a Paloma. Well, I got one right here, man. I'm going to take another sip of it. And we got Victor saying, hey, Weezy, I have a new betting strategy that I'm going to try. I will only bet on fights that I feel confident will end inside the distance because Sal D'Amato is a fucking corrupted crackhead, and I can't trust him with my money, and I know how that goes, man. I mean, that's the hardest part about betting on MMA is like if the judges don't fuck you and if the referee doesn't fuck you by either like not stopping a fight or stopping a fight too soon, then it'll be the actual fighter that goes out there and fights a dumb game plan that fucks you. It's a tough sport to bet on. That's why we got to pick our spots and know when we're really getting that advantage over the bookie so we can smash that spot. But thanks for hanging out, man. Always good to see you in here, Vic. Silky B, my man Weezy, what's up, dude? Matt the Mix saying, bro, you're a fun personality to watch. I really appreciate that, Matt. That's really cool of you to say, man. The Cuban Assassin, Weezy Weez, let's get that cheddar. I have a new gang I'm starting, KPP, Keith Peterson Posse. Only requirements is cheap booze and Benson and Hedges menthol. I am going to be joining that club, my friend, and hopefully we'll be able to meet the man, Keith, one day and party with him, and he can teach us how to smoke and drink like real men do. Mushroom saying sketchy cards can make for sketchy pockets. Yeah, that's true, man. And Barnett is a national treasure. You gotta love Huggy Bear, man. I know that he goes now by Beast Boy, but to me, to your Uncle Weezy, he will always be Huggy Bear. And the failed Netflix series that never saw the light of day, Fat John and Huggy Bear, which was going to feature John Volante and Huggy Bear, Chris Barnett, as a buddy cop duo that always like gets to find the man at the end, the bad guy that did it at the end, and they both chase the guy down and they never catch him because they both have such bad conditioning. So the bad guy always gets away, but every once in a while, John Volante in this, he actually gets the bad guy and he like jumps on him and he catches him just as he's running out of gas, because he has no gas tank, gets him, falls on top of him. But then what happens is the guy actually, Volante chokes him out from the bottom and gets away before Huggy Bear can actually come and back him up. So like that was the idea for the Netflix buddy series that I had. For some reason, John Vellante wanted no part of it, and Chris Barnett wanted no part of it. I wanted Ray Longo and Matt Serra to play the local crime bosses. None of this shit happened. Everybody told their Uncle Weezy to go fuck themselves. So that idea is still up for grabs, you guys. It involves Vellante chokes. It involves cops. It involves crime. It involves, bad conditioning and fat men chasing criminals that are in better shape than them. I think it really pretty much had everything, but it didn't happen. But, such is life. Sometimes our dreams don't come true, you guys. My guy Pascal Roshan in the room with a very, very generous donation. Thank you so much, Pascal, saying, won't be able to stay up late tonight. Thanks for the amazing content. As always, I'll be listening first thing in the AM. Thank you so much, Pascal, for supporting the show, supporting your Uncle Weezy. I love you for it. And we got Tiffany Shriver in here as well. And Tiffany, thank you for your feedback on the new probability show. We're going to be working on the graphics for that show, and I will be zooming in on everything that I'm talking about in the meantime until we figure out the best way to display that data going forward, the most user-friendly way. But thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for watching, Tiffany. It's very much appreciated. And thank you so much for the kind donation. It means so much. We got Pray for Micah saying, gang, gang. And oi, what's up, Pray? Good to see you in here. Keep it cool saying head sizes should be measured in Masvidal's. Go watch the crowd footage of his walkout against Askren for exactly. You can see that pumpkin from Eddie's seats. E.g. Gary is 0.45 Masvidal's. Latifi is 1.2 Masvidal's. I love it, man. We got to get those Masvidal head measurements, and then we'll just compare everything to Masvidal. Cabbage Carrera, dude, Cabbage Carrera did have the biggest head ever. That was the UFC's version of Homer Simpson. That guy, I've never seen anybody take a beating like Cabbage Carrera, man. And I mean, he had fast hands for a fat man too, and he was super tough. And when he hit you, it hurt. But man, Cabbage Carrera blocked punches with that gigantic head of his, and it wasn't even his fault. He had decent head movement, but if you swung at that head, you were fucking hitting it because it had its own orbit. It was like an Easter Island statue. So yeah, man, shout out Cabbage Carrera, one of the fucking greats of the early UFC, man. Love watching those fights. Thomas Howard saying that Blood Money, legendary chin. Yeah, that's for sure, man. Keep it cool saying whenever Sal Tomato's name is the last to be read by Buffer, I know dude, check this out, right? So Sal, I think, was the first name read, I think, this time. Either way, right? I had a 4-leg greasy parlay with Neil Magny by decision in it a couple weeks ago, and Magny got that decision, and the third name read, it was a split, was Sal D'Amato, and he actually was in favor of the guy that I had money on. That's never happened to me before, and I knew, that it wouldn't be long before that guy fucking inserted something right into my rectum again, and I don't even know if he's pulled out yet. Blood Money MMA bet saying Thomas Howard, 100% facts for sure. Weezy's favorite drink, the Paloma, minus 600. Danny, you'd cash the shit out of that bet, my friend. And we got Keep It Cool saying Keith prolonged fights beyond reason because I have money on it, Peterson. Anyone else feel that way because he screwed your ticket multiple times? Yes. Yeah. He killed me in the Santos Guida fight. Dude, there's a bunch of fights Keith Peterson just let go on longer than I thought they should. I mean, there have been bets that I've cashed that he let it go on too long. Keith Peterson was the ref. I had Marlon Moraes by first round KO over Davalishvili, and he had Davalishvili on Dream Street, like completely out on his feet, and Keith Peterson wasn't even close to stepping in. So I've taken some, Keith Peterson has definitely hurt your Uncle Weezy's bankroll before. Blood Money laughing. Matt the Mix saying Luque by decision with Clark by decision. It's done. Luque is such a great finisher. Matt, I would caution you against that because Luque is the only person who's ever finished Bilal Muhammad. It's a 5-round fight, and 13 of Vicente Luque's 14 UFC fights have finished inside his wins. he's finished them inside the distance. Keep it cool saying the curse of the third name. Why does he do this to us? Has to be one of the mob plants. And keep it cool saying I'm so glad you experienced what I have from Tomato and Peterson for sure. Don't feel paranoid. No. He's gotten so many of us. Keep it cool. He's gotten so many of us so many times. Ask anybody who's a long-term MMA gambler. They got Sal D'Amato stories. They got Keith Peterson stories. And if you go back long enough, you got Mario Yamasaki and Steve Mazzagatti stories too. Weezy 2024 says my man Sean V. And Mushroom saying, the later the fight, the drunker Peterson gets. You got that right. And Tristan is in the room. Weezy, let's go. Let's go, Tristan. Let's share my screen here. See if my guy Smooth Jimmy Apollo is ready to go here. And then we're going to get into these fights because we got to get down to business, you guys. 14 fights on the UFC Vegas 51 card, and we got to break them all down from nose to toes, from east to west. We got to give you the best look that we could possibly give you on all of these fights. So let's get it started, you guys. Smooth Jimmy Apollo's got his cigar. He's got his lock of the week, and I got my ass shaving of the week on tap for you guys. Let's get the banner up for the very first fight of the night, which is going to be Alateng Heili at -182, coming in against Kevin Croom at +157. So let me get a cough out here, you guys, and I will have a sip of my beverage, and I will be right back. All right, you guys, let's go. So we've got in the measurables for this particular fight, Alateng is 4 years younger than Croom, who is 34. The measurables advantage, I would say, absolutely has to go to Croom in this fight, who's 6 inches taller, and he has a 7-inch reach advantage. And then if we look here at the experience, it's going to be Croom, who's got 12 more pro fights, 35 more minutes of cage time. He's been a pro for almost 5 years longer than Heili Alateng. But Alateng has one more UFC fight and 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. Croom is the better finisher, as he's finished 77% of his 22 wins inside the distance, while Alateng has a 50% finish rate in 14 pro wins. Both of these guys have been finished in at least 50% of their pro losses. 12 of these guys, 22 combined pro losses have been inside the distance. So that's a nice sample size, you guys. We see that Croom, he's been finished by submission 29% and knockout 29%. We see Alateng has been subbed once and knocked out 3 times in his 8 losses. So when you're looking for a fight doesn't go to decision bet, it's always nice to kind of have those numbers popping off the screen for you where you say, oh, wow, we got a sample size of 22 losses here, and more than half of them have finished inside the distance. So kind of important to check that out and to know that. Now, if we look at these striking numbers for these guys, neither one of these guys has good UFC striking metrics. Alateng has a negative 2.35 significant strike differential per minute, and neither guy lands at a rate higher than 34%. You see Croom at 33.91 and Heili at 32.42. Neither one of these guys has landed a knockdown. Croom, while having a better significant strike ratio, landing 2.56 and absorbing 2.88, has been knocked down once in 3 fights and has a sub 42% striking defense, while Alateng has a 58% striking defense and has never been knocked down in 4 UFC fights. So Alateng not very busy on the feet. His opponents have thrown a lot more significant strike attempts than him, but defensively he's been fairly responsible here, having never been knocked down in 4 fights and having a striking defense that's sitting right just below 60%. When it comes to the grappling, Alateng's grappling metrics are way better than Croom's. However, it looks like Alateng prefers to keep the fight standing, as 84% of Alateng's fights have taken place at striking range. And we can see that right here. 10.36% control time for, only 3.58% control time against. So, Heili's done a pretty good job of keeping the fight standing, which is pretty much where he wants it. But we will see him mix in the wrestling here as he's attempting a little over 5 takedown attempts per fight and getting 1.75 takedowns per 15 minutes. Now, Croom is 1 of 18 on his takedown attempts. He tried to take down Bruce Leroy like a number of times and just had no success with it, and was getting pieced up on the feet. So even though Croom is not great with the takedown attempts, Alex Caceres is somebody who's known to have excellent takedown defense, and Croom just wasn't able to get him to the ground. But in this particular fight, with Croom having that 7-inch reach advantage and the huge height advantage and just being a much bigger dude, we could see him manage distance with his striking, throw a lot more volume than Heili, because Heili is kind of notoriously low volume, and he could win minutes in the striking exchanges because of that size difference, because of the volume difference, because of the diversity of striking. Heili doesn't throw a lot of kicks, but Kevin Croom certainly does, and he throws with a lot of diversity as well. It's a 30% takedown defense for Kevin Croom, though, so we've got to keep that in mind. He's yielded 33% control time against. So he's been out-controlled by about 4% in 3 fights. So he's actually kind of, inefficient here in the grappling exchanges, because he's attempted twice as many takedowns as his opponents, but his opponents are out-controlling him. But then again, his opponents have taken him down 7 times. He's only gotten 1, and his opponents are out-controlling him by only 4%. So it looks like even when he does get taken down, he's able to either threaten with submissions or get back up. So when it comes to the strength of schedule, Croom has the better UFC strength of schedule metrics so far, having a better overall ratio and at 1.33 in comparison to 1. And he's fighting, beating, and losing to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced competition. We can see the 2.5 ratio for Croom in comparison to 1 with a little more total fights. And we can see the ratios here very similar, but with Croom losing to the more experienced competition. So right now we've got a line here where, you could see it on the screen. Alateng is the favorite, sitting about minus 180, and Croom is at about plus 157 here on Bet Online right now. So I actually think Kevin Croom has got a few paths to win this fight. The people who are saying that Alateng's going to out-wrestle Croom, we haven't seen Alateng go to the wrestling a whole lot. He's won a couple of minutes here and there with it, but, like I say, there's a great percentage of his fights that are taking place at striking range, 84% for Alateng. So I think that size advantage, the volume advantage, if Alateng isn't able to get this fight to the cage and potentially take Croom down, the much bigger Kevin Croom, I think that he's going to have a hard time winning minutes on the feet here. And I think at plus 157, Kevin Croom is a very interesting money line to look at for an underdog here. I think I might be sprinkling him this week, you guys. The pick is going to be Kevin Croom by decision. Let's move on to the next one here. And it is going to be Istela Nunes versus Sam Hughes, you guys. So this is an interesting fight. Let me get to my notes. Okay. So we got striker kind of versus striker here, but Istela Nunes is really going to be the much better striker, in my opinion here. She's a pure Muay Thai practitioner, while Sam Hughes also has a Taekwondo background, so she's got a striking background. Also like a college steeplechase racer, if I remember correctly. So Sam Hughes is known to have some pretty good cardio to go along with her good clinch style of fighting. She's kind of just like a little dynamo that just goes out there, throws big shots and tries to get in your face, but, is a lot less skilled in the striking and grappling exchanges than a lot of the opponents that she's faced thus far. So Hughes has a 1-inch height advantage here. She's 1 inch taller, but it's going to be Nunes who has the 2-inch reach advantage. Nunes, they both have 9 fights, but it's Nunes who has 17 more minutes of cage time and over 8 more years as a pro. But it's Sam Hughes who has 2 more UFC level fights, 20 more minutes in the UFC cage, and she's been the far busier fighter as she's fought 3 times a year, while for Istela it's about 3/4 of a time a year. So Istela, an 11-year career and only 9 fights, while a 9-fight career for Sam Hughes in 3 years. So obviously Sam Hughes is getting in that cage. She's a lot more experienced in terms of just getting in the cage and getting minutes in the cage every year, 3 times a year. Istela Nunes is, fighting less than once a year. So, it's always good to have that busier fighter. They're prepared more. They're cutting weight more. They're used to, being in that routine of fighting. So let's see. Hughes is the better finisher with an 80% finish rate compared to only 33% here for Istela Nunes. Nunes all by knockout, while Sam Hughes has 3 submissions and 1 knockout in her 5 wins. So only 1 win by decision, while Istela Nunes has 4 wins by decision. And let's see, we've got Sam Hughes has been finished in 2 of her 4 pro losses, and Istela Nunes has been finished in both of her pro losses. So 4 of the 6 combined losses, these ladies have been inside the distance. When we talk about striking, we don't have much in the way of metrics here. Only 1 fight for Istela and 3 fights for Sam Hughes. But I like Nunes' striking a lot more, you guys. She's way cleaner, crisper, more powerful. She uses her length well, but she has a hard time dealing with pressure. Nunes, in a 1-fight sample size, has way better striking metrics, and she passes the eye test in comparison to Hughes' striking. We see the 66% striking defense here. We see that she landed 4.79, but only absorbed 2.78. And we see that Hughes is absorbing over 2 more significant strike attempts per minute, or significant strikes per minute, than she's landing. And her opponents are throwing about 3.8 more significant strike attempts per minute. So she hasn't been nearly as busy as her opponents has either. And she's got sub 50% striking defense, and she hasn't been as accurate as Istela. And she's going to be at a 2-inch reach disadvantage here too. So I think that the path for Hughes is going to be to use the grappling and to use the pressure in order to close the distance on Istela. Not let Istela get her feet planted, manage distance, and move laterally in order to keep the fight at her range, because if Sam fights at Istela's range and stands in front of her, she's going to get picked apart and maybe knocked out. In the grappling, neither one of these ladies is adept at bringing the fight to the ground. We're not going to see Istela Nunes really even try that. Hughes is going to have to march forward to try to control some clinch exchanges in order to win minutes, but getting takedowns really isn't her game. She's 0-3 thus far in the UFC, and she's been taken on 7 times in 12 attempts. So that's 41.67% takedown defense, you guys. It's not good enough, but she still managed to outcontrol her opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio, 22% to 11%, because of her ability to win minutes on the cage. So the strength of schedule favors Hughes with 3 UFC fights and opponents like Tisha Torres, Loma Lukbunmi, and Luana Pinheiro, while we've seen Istela Nunes just kind of fight some regional scene competition. I know that she's got a loss to a really legit fighter on the regional scene. Let me see if I can find that for you guys, because she has fought somebody on the regional scene, but it was a loss, and the wins are nothing that are going to inspire massive confidence for you, because I know that Sam Hughes is kind of low level as a UFC fighter, but the wins have been over Gina Inayong, 7-3, Mei Yamaguchi, 15-9 in 1, Caroline Martins, 3-0 in FLC, Thias Camila, 0-0, a no contest, and then wins over 1-1, 1-2, and then just some, regional scene fights here. But the losses to Angela Lee, the one championship champion, and then Ariane Carnelosi. So, and then Sam Hughes here. Why is this here? Oh, God. Sorry about that, you guys on the screen. But yeah, Sam Hughes fought Vanessa Demopoulos, fought Lupe Godinez prior to the UFC. So even though she's had a very short career, why won't this go away? Even though she's had a very short career, she's definitely fought really high-level competition for her entire career. So I would say that definitely Hughes has the strength of schedule advantage here big time. So we're looking at a line where Istela Nunes is considerably favored here, and I get it. You know, she's gonna be the much better striker here, and we haven't really seen Sam be able to get the fight to the ground or really win a ton of minutes on the cage. And Istela being a good Muay Thai practitioner, she's going to be able comfortable there in the clinch when Sam initiates it. So Sam might not even be better in the clinch. And if she's unable to get this fight to the ground, she's going to be at that reach disadvantage. She's going to be at a skill disadvantage, and I believe at a power disadvantage too. So Sam Hughes, in order to win this fight, is going to have to make it really dirty. March forward the entire time, clinch up, try to win minutes there, and not let Istela manage distance, keep it at striking range, and pick her apart from range. So I do think that Istela Nunes is going to win this fight, but I will not be laying minus 210 on her or minus 220 in some spots here. I think that Sam Hughes is actually the value side here. I would prefer to bet her at plus 180 before I would bet Istela Nunes, who's 0-1 in the UFC, at minus 210 and who got finished by Ariane Carnelossi. So, yeah, you guys, I'm going to be going with Istela Nunes to win the fight by decision, but I think Sam might be able to make this very dirty. The next fight is going to be Jordan Leavitt versus Trey Ogden. So let me get that banner up for you guys. And let's see here. Let me see. Just make sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay. So Leavitt and Ogden. Ogden about a minus 130 favorite right now. Leavitt about plus 110. So we got Jordan Leavitt is 6 years younger here, but Ogden is going to be the slightly taller and have a half-inch reach advantage. In the experience, though, it's going to be Ogden with the experience advantage here. He's got 19 pro fights in comparison to only 10 for Leavitt. So he's got 80 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got 2.5 more years as a pro. However, Leavitt has 4 fights at the UFC level, and that's 40% of his pro career. And he has 26 more minutes in the UFC cage as this is Ogden's debut. So both of these guys are good finishers as they have a 75% combined finish rate and 26 wins. Both of these guys primarily win by submission, as we see that Jordan Leavitt here has finished 6 of his 9 wins inside the distance by sub, and that Ogden has finished 73% of his 15 wins inside the distance by sub. So that would be 9, probably 10 wins by submission. No, 11 for Trey Ogden. 11 wins by submission, only 4 by decision. And Trey Ogden has been subbed in 3 of his 4 losses, while Jordan Leavitt has only lost by decision, and he only has 1 loss. For the striking, for what I've seen on Ogden on tape, he's the far better striker. He uses his striking to set up his takedown attempts. Leavitt's a work in progress on the feet, and he really isn't very dangerous there. But Leavitt does a good job of using his striking to set up his takedown attempts as well. He looks for reactive double legs. He looks to throw an overhand right and follow it up with a double leg shot. And Jordan Leavitt does have a high school wrestling background. I believe he placed in state in the state of Nevada. So, you know, I mean, the guy can wrestle, and he's a very tricky grappler. But both of these guys are fantastic grapplers. 17 combined wins by sub between them. However, from what I've seen on tape, it looks like Ogden has the better MMA wrestling. That being said, even if Ogden is the one who can dictate where the fight takes place, Leavitt has been great in the UFC thus far, making his opponents fight as 75% of his 26.7 minutes of UFC cage time have been spent in control time positions. So he's masking his striking shortcomings by making his opponents fight his fight. Whether he winds up on the bottom or whether he winds up on the top, he's grappling. And that's where he wants to be because his striking isn't quite UFC level yet. And if it isn't UFC level, then you shouldn't be striking much in the UFC. You should be selling out no matter what to enter the grappling exchanges where you have a better chance to win minutes, bank rounds, and potentially finish the fight. So So, in Ogden's 4 pro losses, he's been finished inside the distance in 3 of them, and they were all by submission. He was guillotined twice by Thomas Gifford and was rear naked choked by Nick Brown. And yeah, twice the same submission on the same takedown entry, both in the first round to Thomas Gifford. So, even though I do like Ogden in this spot, because I think he has the better MMA striking and the better MMA wrestling, and he's more experienced. The problem is that he's made mistakes on the regional scene to guys who are tricky with submissions. And, I can see Jordan Leavitt getting a submission here. So, but I think the Trey Ogden will be able to win minutes in the wrestling, and I think he'll be able to win minutes in the striking. So I think that Leavitt's best shot is winning this fight by submission inside the distance. I think if he's unable to do that he's not going to win enough minutes in the grappling, because I don't think he's the better wrestler here. And I think that Trey Ogden will be winning minutes while this is on the feet. And Ogden is not the kind of guy who's going to be intimidated grappling with somebody like Jordan Leavitt, because, Ogden's a Glory MMA guy. He's got a great camp behind him, and he's got plenty of submission wins in his own right. So I think he'll be fine on the ground with Jordan Leavitt. In terms of strength of schedule, you guys, both of these guys have fought good regional scene competition, and Leavitt's wins inside the UFC hasn't been a great competition so far, boasting wins against Matt Wyman and Matt Sales, but he was out-grappled by Claudio Puelles, so maybe Ogden can have some success there. I'm going to be picking Trey Ogden, you guys. I'll be picking him to win this fight by decision. I think he's going to pile up a bunch of minutes with the striking and with the grappling and win a decision here. But Jordan Leavitt's plus money, and he's got the more UFC experience, and he could absolutely catch Trey Ogden in a submission. So I wonder what that Jordan Leavitt by submission prop is, if we even have it. Leavitt inside the distance is plus 240. So that's not bad if you think that that's his best path to win. The next fight, you guys, is going to be Huggy Bear stepping in against Martin Buday. Let me get that banner up there for you guys. You see Buday is minus 225 right now. Chris Huggy Bear Barnett sitting at plus 190. We got the fight doesn't go to decision sitting at minus 450, you guys. So, the bookies are very confident that this one is not going to see the scorecards. So, tail of the tape. We got a blown-up middleweight here fighting a true heavyweight. Buday's 5 years younger, 30 years old for Buday, 35 for Barnett. He's 7 inches taller, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. So huge size advantage here for Buday. And he's younger too, which is huge. But Barnett is going to be the more experienced guy. He's got 19 more professional fights. He's got 140 more minutes in the pro cage and over 6 more years as a pro. Barnett has 1 more UFC level fight, boasting a UFC victory over Fat Volante, and both guys are finishing at over a 75% rate. Barnett has been finished in 4 of his 7 pro losses, while Buday has never been finished. The striking, and we see the finish rates here, 89% for Buday out of 9, so 8 of 9 inside the distance. And Barnett has finished 77% of his wins by knockout, and we see the 57% finish rate in the 4 of 7 losses coming inside the distance, 3 of them by knockout, and that happens to be how Buday tends to win fights. So in the striking, you guys, Barnett's flashy on the feet. He's unexpectedly athletic for a fat man. He landed a flashy KO via a spinning heel kick over Fat Volante. I mean, that's going to be his forever highlight, is knocking out Fat Volante with that spinning heel kick and then doing that front flip onto his ass. Just absolutely fantastic. How could you not love this guy? He is so much fun to watch, especially when he wins, man, when he dances and does flips and break dances and shit. I mean, it's just absolutely brilliant. I'm glad Chris Barnett's in the UFC, but he's a much smaller dude here than this Buday guy. And Buday is not just like a pure striker. This guy is great in the clinch. He's got great wrestling, good top game, good ground and pound. The guy's got more than one way to win fights, and he's still growing as a fighter as he's very, very young at only 30 years old. That's a baby for a heavyweight. So, I really do think that Buday, if this goes to the ground, will be the bigger man. He's going to have the way better top game here, and we're going to see Barnett in some trouble if this does go down there. Neither one of these guys has beaten anyone of note. To be honest, Chris Barnett beat Walt Harris and Travis View, but I think both of those wins were like back in 2011, 2012. So very long time ago. Since then, neither one of these guys has beaten anyone of note. So I think they're on a similar level here in terms of the level of competition that they've been able to beat in their in their careers thus far. So this one is going to be Martin Buday. I just think that the size difference is going to be too much. We've seen Barnett come in against guys like Ben Rothwell looked absolutely washed against De Lima. He had nothing for De Lima at all. I think he landed one strike in that fight, and he absolutely pretty much killed Chris Barnett, made it look pretty easy with those uppercuts. And then Barnett knocks out Fat Volante, who was, showing up for a paycheck there. I don't think there's anything controversial to say about that. So now he's fighting a guy who's got his whole career in front of him, a guy who's much bigger than him, a guy who's much more well-rounded than him, and a guy who can use that size in often the most important way when you do have a size advantage over your opponent, and that's on the cage and on the ground, which are two places where Chris can't throw that crazy spinning shit, that those Taekwondo attacks that he's known for. So, yeah, the pick's going to be Martin Buday. I'm going to be picking him to win by second round ground and pound knockout, you guys. Next fight, though, Rafa Garcia against Jesse Ronson. We got Jesse Ronson making his return here, you guys, after being suspended for like a year and a half due to some say a tainted supplement, some say, just testing positive for steroids. So I'm not exactly sure what the story is, you guys, but we got a pick 'em here, -110 for Garcia, -110 for Ronson. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at +130 here. So we've got on the tail of the tape, you guys, it's going to be Jesse Ronson, who's 3 inches taller, and he's a southpaw, but God, Rafa Garcia, 9 years younger than Jesse Ronson here. We've got Ronson has 18 more pro fights, though, you guys. As we see, he's got 32 fights in comparison to Garcia. Ronson's got over 210 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got 5 more years as a pro and 1 more UFC level fight with similar UFC cage time to Garcia. Ronson is also the better finisher, as he's finished 81% of his 21 wins inside the distance. We see that right here, you guys. That's 10 knockouts, 7 submissions. Both of these guys are durable, having only been finishing 3 of their 12 combined losses. And then in the striking, Ronson's known to be a good striker, you guys. He prefers to keep fights standing. Despite being 0-3 with a no contest in the UFC, he's landed more significant strikes per minute than he's absorbed. He has a knockdown. He's never been knocked down. And with a 59.26% striking defense, which is, it's really good, actually. But Garcia sitting at about 54%. Garcia's striking metrics are terrible, though, you guys. He's throwing less volume than his opponents. He's landing at 35%, which isn't good. He has no knockdowns. He's being outstruck by 2 significant strikes per minute and outthrown by almost 2 significant strike attempts per minute. So Jesse Ronson, I believe if this fight stays on the feet, that he should have a pretty clear advantage there. Now, Garcia does have good boxing, and he definitely had Gritzenmacher in some trouble in the first round, but he kind of gassed out. So Ronson's the kind of guy who would love to keep the fight standing and use his kickboxing, because that's really where he's most comfortable. He's had to get comfortable into the grappling exchanges because of how his UFC career started. So Garcia's done a great job of winning minutes in the grappling exchanges in the UFC thus far. Ronson hasn't yet. Garcia is averaging 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's that number is right here. He's out controlling his opponents at a better than 13-to-1 ratio. Ronson, on the other hand, has faced great wrestlers in the UFC and has been out controlled at better than a 7-to-1 ratio. So the possibility for Garcia to win minutes with his wrestling is there. But we did see Ronson, he's gotten 2 takedowns and he's been taken down 12 times. But we see he's attempted 5 takedowns and his opponents have tried 31. So, it's not surprising that he's been out controlled 38% to 5%. But Ronson, fought Kevin Lee, he fought Michel Prazeres, and then he fought Francisco Trinaldo. He lost all 3 of those fights, but they were all by split decision. So in terms of the strength of schedule, Ronson has without question faced the much tougher UFC level competition. Those names, Prazeres, Trinaldo, Nick Dalby even, and Kevin Lee, you can't really compare him to Hack Parast and Natan Levy and Gritzenmacher. And, even then before, Garcia's 2 regional scene wins in Combate were to Eric the Ghost Pepper Gonzalez and Humberto Bandone, both of whom have fought in the UFC. So Garcia's fought some pretty good regional scene competition as well, but it is Ronson who's fought the tougher competition over a longer period of time. So I think that Garcia probably can win some minutes on the ground, but can he do it for enough time to not get knocked out or not get hurt badly and wind up on the ground with Ronson in bottom position? I like Ronson here, you guys. I'm going to be picking Ronson to win this fight. I like the strength of schedule for Ronson. I like the fact that he's got an experience advantage. I think that, in my opinion, he has a striking advantage as well. And, the only thing that worries me is the fact that he's 9 years older. Garcia is younger, getting, his whole career is ahead of him, while Ronson is a 36-year-old lightweight. He's getting towards the end of his career, having had 32 fights and about 300 minutes of cage time. And we've got the layoff, the hanging chat about whether, he was really on steroids or just caught a tainted supplement. So Ronson is the pick. I think that he's going to win this by decision because Rafa Garcia is very tough and he's never been finished in 14 professional fights. But if Ronson lands a big shot, anything is possible. But the pick, you guys, is going to be Jesse Ronson by decision. And this next one, wow, huge line on this one, you guys. Drakkar Klose versus Brandon Jenkins. We've got Drakkar Klose right now sitting at minus 800. Brandon Jenkins at plus 500. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 130. So without skipping around too much on the stats, because we don't have anything for Jenkins, let me just kind of go through the notes here. Jenkins has the advantage in the measurables. He's going to be 4 years younger. He's going to be 3 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. Plus, he switches stances, which is a good thing that can confuse people in striking exchanges. And Jenkins also has the experience advantage here. As he's got 9 more pro fights, almost 70 more minutes in the pro cage, and he has 8 more months as a pro. However, Klose has fought 50% of his pro career at the UFC level, has 6 more UFC fights, and almost 80 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's Jenkins who's the much better finisher, though, as he's sporting an 87% finish rate and 15 career wins, while for Klose it's only 36%, and he's never finished anybody at the UFC level. When it comes to the striking, the metrics are way better for Klose, but we don't have a sample size really for Brandon Jenkins, having only fought once in the UFC. But what we did see out of Jenkins was pitiful against Rong Zhu. He got knocked down. He got wrestle-fucked by a guy that's not a particularly great wrestler outside of that fight, and finished in the 3rd round by a guy who has not looked UFC level in his 2 losses. Klose should be able to win minutes in the clinch here. He should be able to win minutes in the striking exchanges here. And Klose has went to the wrestling quite a bit, having completed 10 takedowns in 7 UFC fights, averaging 1.56 takedowns per 15 minutes, and out-controlling his opponents 22.53% to 17.2%. Jenkins lost a ton of minutes on the ground against Zhu. So if Drakkar doesn't like how it's going on the feet, he could probably win minutes on the ground, because if Zhu Rong can take this guy down 6 times in less than 3 full rounds and accumulate 65% control time, then Drakkar Klose, who's gotten 10 takedowns against some really tough UFC level competition, you guys, will probably be up to the task to do that as well. The strength of schedule is all close. Very impressive level of competition fought for Drakkar in the UFC. So yeah, the pick is Drakkar Klose. He's minus 800. Big surprise, right? I'm going to pick him to win by decision. Jenkins is tough, even though he was taking a beating in that fight. He didn't want to quit and protested the stoppage when they did stop it. But I'm going to pick Klose to win by decision. Won't be touching this fight from a betting perspective. The line is absolutely blown out. And Jenkins is younger, bigger, longer, and more experienced. So I just think it's, a complete stay away spot. I'm not putting my money on Klose at this point, simply because of 2 things. I don't know what's going on. It's a long layoff for Klose. He hasn't fought in a long time. He had that incident with Jeremy Stephens. Was supposed to fight Jeremy Stephens. They faced off at the weigh-ins. Jeremy Stephens shoves him hard, and his neck goes back, and then he winds up not being cleared to fight. He has a concussion because of getting shoved. So, maybe this weight cut is being a lot for him. He got shoved when he was most susceptible to getting hurt. But it's something to look out for, and there has been a layoff. So with those things, and Jenkins being dangerous on the feet, it's just way too much to lay minus 800 on. But Jenkins, with that pro record of 15-8, and he's a journeyman losing to much lower level competition than the guys that are beating Drakkar Klose. So yeah, man, South Haven, Michigan, stand up. Drakkar Klose, I think, is going to be coming and winning this fight, you guys, by decision. Let's move on to the next one here. Another one that's really not much to talk about. Lina Lansberg versus Pannie Kianzad. We got Pannie's coming in at minus 415. Lina at plus 315. Fight doesn't go at plus 250. So Lina Lansberg hasn't fought in 2 years. Pannie's 10 years younger than Lina, has a 1-inch reach advantage. And we got Lina Lansberg recently getting married, and now she's had a kid, and she's 40 years old. I mean, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. I mean, there's just red flags all over the place in terms of the narrative on Lina Lansberg. In addition to Pannie being 10 years younger and having that tiny reach advantage, she's actually more experienced than Lina. So even though Pannie's 10 years younger, Pannie started her career 8 months before Lina Lansberg did. And in Pannie's second fight and in Lina's pro debut, Pannie Kianzad beat her. So when Pannie was 20 and Lina was 30 in the prime of her career, Lina wasn't good enough to beat Pannie. So now Lina's had a kid. She's married. She's 40 years old. She hasn't fought in 2 years. And she's fighting a girl in Pannie Kianzad who's coming into the prime of her career now, the prime of her fighting career, which is 30 years old. And it just doesn't look good. So Pannie has 6 more pro fights, and so she's even more experienced despite the fact she's younger and beat this woman before. So 6 more months as a pro. Lina has just a little more UFC experience, 1 more fight, 8 more minutes of cage time. Neither one is much of a finisher, but Lina has a higher career finish rate. They have been finished in 6 of 11 combined career losses, though. So that's kind of a red flag if you're thinking the fight goes to decision, because in a lot of women's fights, a lot of people just auto bet the fight goes to decision. But look, Pannie's been finished in 1 of her 3 UFC losses. Lina's been finished in 2 of her 4 UFC losses. And yeah, 3 of 5 total losses for Lina, and 3 of 6 total losses for Pannie. So one of these ladies could get a finish. I think this could be Pannie's, second finish as a pro here, or first UFC finish, because if Lina Lansberg's just checked out and coming in for a check here, I think that Pannie might finish her here, because she's going to be the better. she's going to be the better. She's better everywhere, you guys. Pannie's UFC striking metrics look way better. Pannie lands one more significant strike a minute than she absorbs. So see that 5.34 landed, 4.35 absorbed. She's better defensively as Lina has 44% striking defense. Excuse me. And Pannie has 53% striking defense. Pannie has been knocked down twice, though, in her 7 UFC fights. But Lina Lansberg has never landed a knockdown, and neither has Pannie in the UFC. Pannie throws more volume than her opponents, while Lina throws less volume than her opponents. Lina's fights are taking place in control time positions like 76% of the time, while for Pannie, it's about 40% of the time. So Pannie will probably want to keep this at striking range. She should be much better there. And she's had 77% striking takedown defense in the UFC. And even though she's gotten out taken down by 3 here, she's getting out controlled 27% to 12%. So the efficiency isn't terrible for Pannie on the ground here. But, Lina has been taken out 14 times. So she's got bad takedown defense. So if Pannie doesn't like how it's going on the feet, she could probably get Lina to the ground here. In terms of the strength of schedule metrics, I've got Kianzad with the better strength of schedule overall, the better wins, and she's lost to the better competition. So Pannie's younger. She's more experienced. She's the better striker. Lina might be better in the clinch, and Lina might be better at getting the fight to the ground, but she's not good enough to win enough minutes there to think that she's going to be able to win this fight. I think Pannie gets this one done, and I frankly, I think she's going to finish Lina. I think Lina's probably done here at 40 years old, coming off of having a baby at this age. It's a bad combination for a mixed martial artist. And especially now that you're fighting somebody that already beat you when you were in your prime and she was just starting MMA. Now, here they are. They're both a lot more experienced, and Pannie's looked a lot better in the UFC. And it just seems like everything's lining up for this to be very easy for her. So I'm picking Pannie Kianzad. I'm picking her to win by second round knockout. Devin Clark versus William Knight is next, you guys. Very interesting fight. Not sure what to think of it, as I'm not sure what to think of most William Knight fights. This is, let's see. Let me get the stats up here for you guys, and let me get my notes on the screen. So Clark, 3 years younger, as you can see here. He's 2 inches taller. He's got a 3-inch or 2-inch reach advantage. So in the experience, Devin Clark's got 4 more pro fights. He's got 75 more minutes in the pro cage, almost 5 more years as a pro, and 5 more UFC level fights. He's got over 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. Knight is a way better finisher, though, with an 82% finish rate here in 11 wins in comparison to Clark's 33% finish rate in 12 wins. Knight's the better moment winner as he's more explosive. He's the far more explosive athlete. You see how the dude is built. And Clark is the better minute winner as he uses his wrestling and cage control and top control in order to kind of try to win minutes and grind out his opponents. And Clark brings really good conditioning too. So he can actually put a pace on you and work you in the second and third round, exactly like he did to Alonzo Menafield, where Menafield had a huge first round, almost knocked him out. But Clark will keep coming and keep pushing, and he'll keep pushing that pace. His dad will keep screaming at him at the top of his lungs from cage side. So it's an interesting stylistic matchup here because William Knight is getting takedowns, but he doesn't really do anything with them. And he's being controlled a lot. But William Knight, less experienced. Devin Clark, the bigger guy, the more experienced guy. It's going to be Knight who's more explosive. In the striking, it's going to be Devin Clark who's kind of bringing like the volume, but William Knight who's bringing the power. But Devin Clark does have 2 knockdowns in his 12 UFC fights, and William Knight has 2 knockdowns in his 7 UFC fights. Devin has been knocked down 3 times in 12 fights, and William Knight has never been knocked down. One of the biggest numbers that we have to talk about, though, is the 33.5% striking defense for William Knight over a pretty big sample size of 7 fights. So that is a big time problem here. The time props, you guys, for this fight don't really stick out to me because Devin Clark with a 33% finish rate and no UFC wins by finish. It feels like his path to victory is via decision. And if you think that this fight is going to finish inside the distance, it's probably going to be William Knight, who's finished 3 of his 5 UFC wins by knockout and has finished 9 of his 11 career wins by knockout. And we see that Devin Clark has been finished in 5 of his 6 UFC losses. And I mean, the one that he made it to decision on, Ion Cutelaba, nearly killed him. So, I mean, Devin Clark gets hurt in almost every fight. Even in the fights that he wins, he gets hurt. And William Knight hurts people with big shots. Interesting fight that's supposed to be taking place at heavyweight this time because William Knight missed weight by 13 pounds in his short notice fight against Maxim Grishin. Let's see. Let me get to the notes here, you guys. In terms of the striking, both guys are okay on the feet. Both land more than they absorb and both throw more volume than their opponents on the aggregate. Knight throws with really bad intentions, what makes them more dangerous, but against Clark, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, as Clark can use his aggression against him by shooting reactive double legs. The most glaring striking statistic between both of them is Knight's 33.5% striking defense. Problem at this level for sure. When it comes to the grappling stats, Clark is a grapple-heavy wrestler who tries to win minutes with his wrestling and top control. He's averaging 2.51 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he has 35.81% control time for in a 12-fight sample size. He's been easy to win minutes off of, though, because he only has 56% takedown defense and has been controlled by his opponents for 27% of his UFC cage time. Knight's takedown defense isn't any better, though, at 45%, you guys. And he's been out-controlled at almost a 3-to-1 ratio by his opponents, 35.2% to 12.69%. So it looks like Clark is going to have a path to this fight to win minutes by his preferred method, which is just to get takedowns and to get top control and to get cage control. When we look at the strength of schedule numbers here, we see that William Knight's got the better ratio, but it's Clark who's fighting the more experienced competition and beating the more experienced competition. Neither one of these guys, though, is beating UFC world beaters. It's Clark who's fought the higher level of competition, though, as he's losing to legit light heavyweights, guys like Blachowicz, guys like Cutelaba. Who else do we have on here? Anthony Smith, and then the wins were over an 0-4 to Quan Townsend, Alonzo Menafield, a couple other guys here. He's lost to Span, so it's definitely Knight who doesn't have any signature wins in the UFC, really. The average record of the guy that he beats is 1.8 and 1.4. They've both beaten Alonzo Menafield barely. So that's the common opponent between them. But yeah, the wins over Menafield and 0-4 Fabio Charant and Alexa Kamer aren't exactly the kind of wins that inspire a ton of confidence. So it's a very greasy fight. I think if you're on the Knight side, you guys, you pick him to win inside the distance by knockout. And I think that if you're on the Devin Clark side, you pick him to win by decision. Right now, the line on Devin Clark by decision is plus 160, and Knight inside the distance is plus 305. So, yeah, I think that's how I would do it because I don't know if Knight's going to win minutes in this fight. I could see him winning moments, landing a big shot, maybe landing a ton of leg kicks. But like I say, Clark gets hurt in every damn fight. So if Clark can't get the wrestling going and if he can't pile up time control, I think it's just a matter of time before Knight lands something big and puts Clark in trouble and then gets the finish. So Knight inside the distance at plus 305 is something I might be sprinkling a quarter unit on because I think it's his best path to victory here. I'll look what the KO prop is, see if I can get it something closer to plus 350. But yeah, Knight inside the distance is intriguing, My pick, though, you guys, is I think I'm actually going to pick Knight by KO, but very little confidence. I wouldn't sprinkle more than a third of a unit on something like this. You know, it's just that Clark is pretty good at winning minutes, but I think he does better when his opponent gasses out, and I don't think that William Knight's going to do that at heavyweight, not having to cut weight. So I think that William Knight's going to get a win here and do it inside the distance. Let's see what the next fight is that we have to discuss, you guys. Oh my God, Chris Kianzad in the room saying, "What's up, Uncle Weezy?" Hammer and Hog in the room saying, "Yo, what's up, fellas? Good to see you guys in here. Keep it cool." Saying Clark's eyes are still rolling around in his head from last fight. Oh my God, that was a brutal one, you guys. Clark sucks so bad and lazy. Now he's moving to heavyweight. He's going to be all of a sudden more mobile. I don't know. I'll never pass a fight. This is a fight to pass of all fights. Yeah, William Knight fights, I kind of feel like they kind of feel like that to me because Knight's such a hard fighter to handicap. Okay, so Ange Loosa versus Mounir Lazzez, you guys. We've got Loosa taking this fight on short notice. He just accepted it today, as far as I know. Mounir Lazzez was supposed to fight Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, who nearly murdered Benoit Saint Denis in the cage last time, thanks to Vyacheslav Kisiev, costing me a winning night. But we've got Loosa is the guy that fought Jack Della Maddalena on the Contender Series. Lost that fight, but it was an absolute banger. I really became a fan of the guy rewatching that fight. He's excellent. He's super fun to watch. And then we've got Lazzez, straight out of Tunisia, trains in the UAE, I think, and is a guy that's a really good, well-rounded mixed martial artist here at 34 years old. So Lazzez is going to be 3 inches taller. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. He's got a little bit of an experience advantage here, having 18 more minutes in the pro cage, 2 more pro fights, about a year more as a pro, and 1 more fight at the UFC level. Both of these guys are finishers, 75% for Loosa, 80% for Lazzez. Lazzez has been finishing one of his 2 losses. It was the body kick finish by Warlley Alves in his last fight. When it comes to the striking, Lazzez has got nice little numbers here, landing 5.69 a minute and absorbing 4.78, throwing more volume than his opponents. 45% striking defense isn't great, and he has been knocked down by Warlley Alves. And then Loosa landed about 35% against Della Maddalena, 52% striking defense, landed 4.27 and absorbed 7.2 and was out-volumed on the feet by Della Maddalena. Ange Loosa got 1 takedown, gave up none, controlled him for about 16% of the fight. Mounir Lazzez, though, 4 of 4 on his takedown attempts, 100%, averaging 3.4 per 15 minutes. So he might be able to try to get to win some minutes here on the ground against Loosa. And he's showing 60% takedown defense thus far. The grappling efficiency is pretty good as he's out-controlling his opponents almost at a 2-to-1 ratio, and he's out-takedowning his opponents at about a 2-to-1 ratio, despite the fact he's got 1 less takedown attempt. So not much here in the way of data, you guys. And this fight was just announced today. We got Lazzez minus 200, Loosa plus 170. Hard to know how ready Loosa is going to be for this. Hard to know how bad that weight cut's going to be because this guy's a big 170 already. And he's going to have to cut down to 171 here. And Lazzez was already ready to fight. Fighting a guy that's a good, well-rounded mixed martial artist like Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. This is definitely a step down for Lazzez. I'm just going to have to go with him because, you know, he's not taking this on short notice, but it's a late notice for him and an opponent change, which isn't going to be easy for him as well. Haven't had much of a chance to look into this fight, like what I see from both of these guys, but I'm just going to have to pick Lazzez in this spot, but I'm not betting this. I'm going to have to look further into it as it was just announced earlier today. But yeah, you guys, the pick will be Lazzez. and I'll pick him to win by decision because I don't think anybody's finishing this Loosa the way that Madalena was putting it on him and the way he kept coming and never quit. I think that if you're going to bet Lazzez, the value will be on the decision prop, despite the fact that both of these guys are pretty good finishers. Like I say, Loosa never been finished. So, yeah, maybe we'll go with Lazzez by decision here. But yeah, not much to talk about with that one here. But here we got a very interesting one. And I think that this one is going to be starting off the main card, you guys. Pat Sabatini versus TJ Laramie. Oh, my God. Now, we got Pat Sabatini making his return. We'll see that he's going to be the bigger guy here as he's 2 inches taller and has a 4-inch reach advantage. But TJ Laramie is only 24 years old. What a baby. And he's already got 16 professional fights and 7 years in the fight game. So TJ Laramie turned pro at the age of 17. So he's been doing this a very long time. As a matter of fact, Pat Sabatini's really only been a pro for 1 more year than TJ Laramie at this point. So, yeah, Sabatini, bigger guy. Laramie, 7 years younger. But we haven't seen Laramie in around 18 months. He's pulled out of 2 fights in 2021. Hard to know where he is and whether he's improved since we've last seen him. But he's only 24 years old. So, he could absolutely be making improvements. But he's going to be at a size disadvantage here. And he's going to be at a little bit of an experience disadvantage too. Despite the fact Sabatini's 7 years older, though, than TJ, the experience numbers are pretty damn close. But they do lean Pat. Pat has 3 more pro fights, 13 more minutes of cage time. He's almost 1 more year as a pro. And both guys have been regional scene champs. They both had 5-round experience on the regional scene. Both guys have 75% finish rates as a pro. But Sabatini has been more durable, only having been finished once, as Laramie's been finished 3 times. So we see 4 losses here for Laramie. He's been subbed once and knocked out twice. One of those 4 losses was to Vince Murdoch, and he lost that fight on the scorecards, but he absolutely won that fight. So you can make an argument that TJ Laramie has 3 pro losses and that he's been finished in all of them. So very interesting little stat there, as Pat Sabatini has finished 12 of his 16 pro wins inside the distance. So he's a very good finisher. It has me thinking of Sabatini by submission or just inside the distance, you guys. Now, in the striking stats, get them up on the screen here. And I need a producer for my show. Neither one of these guys is known for their striking, but I edge Sabatini due to his size. TJ just isn't dangerous on the feet. He struggles to use his striking to do anything but close the distance on his opponents and set up his takedowns. Sabatini should be the better distance striker pretty easily here. He's got, I think, a Taekwondo background in addition to the wrestling. He will throw some spinning stuff sometimes and has some flashy strikes that he throws. And he's going to be at that 4-inch reach advantage here. So bigger guy, reach advantage guy, longer guy, throws better kicks. I think that he'll be the better minute winner on the feet here. And in the grappling exchanges, you guys, both of these guys use their grappling to win minutes and win fights. TJ relies on his wrestling. He uses his wrestling to get the fight to the ground. He uses his top control and his ground and pound. Sabatini is also good at all those things, but Pat also excels in his submission grappling. He uses leg locks not only to finish fights, but also to set up sweeps. I believe Pat Sabatini might have 3 wins by leg locks. So he's one of those guys that can use those leg locks to sweep if you take him down. He's always dangerous from there. As a matter of fact, when he got hurt by Jamal Emmers got on top, and then it was Emmers making a mistake, kind of like going for a footlock on Sabatini that allowed Sabatini to go for the leg lock of his own and finish the fight. And I think we're not going to probably see Emmers for a minute because he looked like he got pretty seriously injured by that leg lock. So, yeah, that's going to be something that TJ is going to have to worry about. When it comes to strength of schedule, inside the UFC, it's been Sabatini who's fought the better guys. And on the regional scene, they've both fought excellent competition, and they've both been champions. So TJ, this just feels like a terrible matchup for him. His best minute winning potential is to take a guy down and try to pound his head through the canvas. But once you take Pat Sabatini down, you're taking down a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And it's also a guy with a Division I wrestling background in college as well at Rider University. So, even though he's been taken out on both attempts against him in the UFC, Pat has only been controlled for 10% of his UFC cage time. So, maybe a little over 3 minutes on those 2 takedowns. So it's not like he's losing a lot of minutes on the ground. And he's won 65% of his UFC cage time in control time. So he's out controlling his opponents at about a 6-to-1 ratio here. This is something that TJ Laramie is also doing in his one contender series fight here. 76% control time for, 2% control time against. But I just think that if TJ does get this fight to the ground, he's going to be dodging submissions, and it might not even look like he's winning the round. So I think Sabatini will win minutes on the feet. I think Sabatini's going to know that the takedowns are coming, and if he can stuff them and keep it standing, I think he can win fights there. And if he can shoot for the takedown first on TJ and get it, I think that he can absolutely submit TJ on the ground. We might see that TJ made a ton of improvements, but he got submitted by Derek Minner. He's susceptible to submissions, and Pat Sabatini is so good at that I got to believe that Pat Sabatini is going to win this fight inside the distance, you guys, by submission. Definitely picking Pat Sabatini here. That is a great fight. And now we're going to move on to not so great of a fight. A 1-800 fight, if you ask me, you guys. We got Mayra Bueno Silva sitting here at minus 455 over Wenan Yu at plus 355. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 120. Oh, God. So, man, this stinks. I don't like this fight at all, you guys. I don't have much good to say about either one of these ladies in terms of the performances that they've put on in the UFC cage. Mayra Bueno Silva is 3-2-1 in the UFC. She's fought the much better brand of competition, beaten the much better brand of competition. She should be the more powerful striker. She should be the more dangerous submission grappler. But I mean, the metrics on Mayra Bueno Silva are absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. Mayra Bueno Silva has attempted 0 takedowns and had 32 takedowns attempted against her. So, in a way, that's a compliment to Mayra's striking. It seems like ladies don't want to be on the feet with her. They're attempting over 5 takedown attempts per fight. They're controlling her for 42% of her 53 minutes in the cage. Even though she's got takedown defense over 70%, she's still getting controlled all the time. Wenan Yu is, spending about 40% of her fights in control time positions for and against. She's been way more efficient in not losing a ton of minutes on the ground, even when she does get taken down. But so we got a super long wide line here. I don't know what to think of Wu Yanan at, plus 355 here, but Mayra should be more powerful. She should be the better submission grappler. She's fought the way better brand of competition. I just don't see how Wu Yanan or Yanan Wu wins this fight. I guess I'm just going to pick Mayra to win by decision. Have these ladies been finished? Wenan Yu's been finished once, and Mayra's only been finished 0 times in 2 losses, and she's been to a draw as well. So I'll pick Mayra Bueno Silva to win this one by decision, you guys. Not touching it. It's a 1-800 fight. I don't know what this is doing on the main card, but here we are. Sandwich in between Pat Sabatini versus TJ Laramie and Miguel Baeza versus Andre Fiallo is this stinker of a fight that your Uncle Weezy won't be betting on. doesn't really care much about. This will be kind of like the smoke break fight, if you will, to go pick up some food or something like that. But yeah, I'm going with Mayra Bueno Silva. Line is way too wide. I would not recommend that you bet it. Even though both of these ladies finish at a pretty damn good rate, over 80% for both of them, I wouldn't, count on them finishing each other here. But I wouldn't bet on it either. So yeah, that's that one, you guys. Let's move on to a great fight here. Andre Fiallo coming in at plus 145 as the underdog, squaring off against Miguel Baeza, minus 170. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 185. All right, you guys, let me get to my notes here. And we've got Baeza 2 inches taller. Fiallo is a year and a half younger, so it's very close in the measurables here. Not really much of an advantage either way. Fiallo has 7 more pro fights. He's got 20 more minutes of pro cage time, and he's got a year more as a professional mixed martial artist. Baeza has spent half of his 12-fight pro career at the UFC level, though. So you see 6 UFC fights out of 12 pro fights for Baeza, while it's only 1 UFC level fight out of 19 for Fiallo. Miguel has 5 more UFC fights, 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. Both guys finish at least an 80% rate in their wins, and both guys have lost half of their pro losses inside the distance by knockout. So for Fiallo, he's been knocked out in 2 of 4 losses, and Baez has been knocked out in 1 of 2 losses. When it comes to the striking, Baeza's got some really smooth boxing, really great low leg kicks, and he's got a ton of power to go along with that slick striking of his. We've got 5 knockdowns in 6 UFC fights for Miguel Baeza. That's a 1.62% knockdowns per total significant strike landed and 1.18 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Fiallo also has a ton of power, though, you guys. He waits the counter. He throws 100% power into every strike, so he fades quickly. In his debut on short notice against Pereira, he was low volume, and he was not good defensively, but he showed a ton of heart, and he kept fighting late, even though he was exhausted. He was just pressure against Pereira. Really fought a really good game plan, and even though he looked exhausted and completely done after the second round, he pressured for the entire third round and made it very close. But the problem that I see for this particular fight, the difference between Fiallo and Baeza, is that Fiallo's a boxer and a power boxer. And Miguel Baeza is a power kickboxer. He's using his kicks. He's mixing in those kicks. Fiallo is not. So Fiallo really does have to march down his opponents in order to close the distance, in order to get in there to use his hands, and in order to throw those power shots that he tries to knock his opponent out with. But the problem is that he's very heavy on that lead leg because he throws those hands so much, because he's pressuring so much. Man, that if you're heavy on your lead leg against Miguel Baeza, the way that he throws those low leg kicks and the way that he throws those power shots, those wide overhand rights, you can absolutely get clipped. So, I think that this is a particularly solid violent spot because I don't see either one of these guys grappling much offensively. Fiallo doesn't have the gas tank to do it. Baeza's only got 2 takedowns in 6 UFC fights, and I think one of them came in the last second of a round. So it was completely meaningless. So we don't really see Baeza getting takedowns. We don't really see him getting control time. 95% of his fights are taking place at striking range. And in Fiallo's fight against Pereira, 90% of it took place at striking range. And there was only 1 takedown in the fight that Pereira got very little control time as a result of that. So I think that this fight's going to take place standing. I think Miguel Baeza's variety of strikes is going to set him apart in this matchup. I love Fiallo's pressure. I love Fiallo's power. I love the way he counters. His left hook is nasty, but I think Baeza's got more weapons. And I think that once he lands 3 or 4 of those calf kicks, I don't think Fiallo is going to be able to plant his feet and throw with as much power as he thought he would. And then I think you're going to see Baeza start to work this dude over and get a finish late in this fight. I'm picking Baeza to win this one by third round knockout. You guys, he does have the better strength of schedule here as well, fighting guys like Matt Brown, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Chaos Williams, while Fiallo had a good performance against Michel Pereira on short notice. But the wins prior to that against Sekulic, against Puig, Yoon, James Vick, not nearly as good as Baeza's UFC level competition that he's been fighting. So yeah, you guys, I'm picking Baeza to win that one by third round knockout. Let's see where we are here. We're an hour and a half in. We got 2 fights and 1 ass shaving to go, you guys. I'd like to thank all 47 of you guys that are hanging out here on a Tuesday night with your Uncle Weezy for Just the Tip. I appreciate you guys that hang out, that comment, that hit that thumbs up button, that hit that subscribe button, that have subscribed over to the MMA Engine YouTube channel. That the MMA Engine YouTube channel is going to be debuting a show. Well, it already debuted last week, but we've got this awesome prop template here, which looks at over-unders for fights. Like, for instance, the Garcia-Ronson fight. Let's just zoom in on this. And on probability, we're going to be looking at the 155-pound division for Garcia and Ronson, where this fight is taking place. And we can see that 50% of these fights have taken place, have finished inside the distance. And then we can convert the fight doesn't go to decision line here at plus 130 into an implied probability of 43.48%. And then we can compare that 43.48% for the implied probability of the fight not going to decision and the 50% finish rate for the division to the finish rates overall and in the UFC for the 2 fighters involved. And then when we see green here, for instance, like in these guys, 46 combined wins between Rafa Garcia and Jesse Ronson. In their 46 combined fights, 28 of them have finished inside the distance. That's 60.9%. That's 10% better than the divisional finish rate, and it's 17% better than the implied probability of the line. So, that actually shows us, because it's in green here, that the combined wins and losses of these 2 guys overall and that their winning percentage is much better than the implied probability of the line and the divisional finish rate as a whole. So we're going to be using this prop template to find value in the fight goes and the fight doesn't go to decision lines. And hopefully what we can do is find some reasons to bet. Now, look at this. In the UFC, for instance, 6 of these 7 guys' fights have went to decision here. So that means that 0 of 7 have finished inside the distance. So neither one of these guys in the UFC are ever having fights that finish inside the distance. So this could be a great spot to pick a fight goes to decision line here and get a good really good price in comparison to the divisional finish rate and to the implied probability of the line. And the fight goes to decision for Ronson is plus money. So they're telling you plus money, despite the fact that Ronson and Garcia, outside of the no contest for Ronson, in one of those 7 fights, 6 of those 7 fights have went to decision. So it's a way to find edges, to find gambling edges in the lines compared to the divisional finish rates and compared to the implied probabilities of the line. So Thursday night, MMA Engine YouTube channel, Probability, me and DFS by the Numbers are going to take you through all 14 fights on this card, and we're going to try to find some value in the fight goes, fight doesn't go, over 2.5, under 2.5, over 1.5, under 1.5, talk analytics, talk betting, join us. But we've got 2 more fights to go, you guys, here. Caio Borralho versus Gadzhi Omar Gadziev. So let's get these stats up on the screen. Now, this is both of these guys' UFC debut in this particular fight. Both of these guys have coming off wins on the Contender Series. Ohio, 2 wins on the Contender Series. Godzi has 1. In the measurables, we're going to see that these two are the same age. Godzi is going to be 3 inches taller. Kyle is going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. Kyle is a natural righty who also always fights southpaw. He trained himself to fight that way after seeing Conor McGregor and how much trouble Conor McGregor gave people with his lefty striking. He actually taught himself, Kyle, to become a lefty striker. So we're seeing a natural right-handed guy in Kyle Ohio fight as a southpaw here. And Godzi's fighting out of switch stance. So he's fighting both stances. But it's going to be Kyle with the reach advantage, Godzi with the height advantage. In the experience numbers, they're very similar, you guys. These numbers are almost identical. Kyle has been a bit busier. He has 1 more DWCS level fight and a couple more minutes of pro and UFC cage time, while Godzi has 1 more pro fight, a little more than a year as a pro, and a better finish rate than Kyle by a small edge, like 85% to 70%. Godzi's never lost, and Kyle in his 1 loss was not finished. In the striking, I'm going to favor Kyle here. While Godzi is trickier because he throws kicks and switches, and he throws kicks and he switches stances, and is always likely to mix in his wrestling. It's Kyle who has that karate style that is hard to deal with. He kind of jumps in and out. He's kind of sideways, and because he's taught himself to fight southpaw, he's got serious power in both hands. Kyle should be the guy landing the more eye-catching, powerful shots on the feet, in my opinion. When it comes to the grappling, both of these guys are great grapplers, you guys. When you watch the regional scene footage, you see these guys winning the grappling exchanges almost entirely in their regional scene footage. Godzi is a Russian-style wrestler. He chains together attempts. He gets wrist control, is in position over submission, always looks for ground and pound. And when he gets your back to the mat and he starts setting up that ground and pound, he always is looking for the crucifix to land that ground and pound. Kyle is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he's a Judo brown belt. And he also uses some kind of traditional wrestling entries on his takedown as well. But he's really good getting takedowns in the clinch because of that Judo brown belt. I think Godzi is going to be the guy who initiates the wrestling first, and he usually has been in all his regional scene footage. So I'm interested to see how Kyle's takedown defense holds up against him. But Kyle is very good on the ground. He's very strong. And I think that while this fight is standing, it's going to be Kyle landing the much better shots. I'm picking Kyle Barrio to win this fight, you guys. I think I'm just really impressed. And there was something here. One of the most impressive names I've come to see in the UFC here in a very long time is Jailton Almeida. These guys have had a grappling match that was very close. So if Kyle can lose on points to Jailton Almeida, but survive the full fight. Here we go. Submission circus, 5-minute round plus overtime. Jailton Almeida, it was a lost decision, escape time. So if he can grapple with Jailton Almeida and make it close, I think he can grapple with Godzi and make it close. The one thing that I don't think is going to be particularly close is I see one of these guys is a lot more striking exchanges, and that's Kyle. I think he's going to be stronger than Godzi. So if Godzi sells out for takedowns and isn't able to get them, I think we could see Kyle getting top position and really looking good there. But whoever gets top position in this fight is going to be a menace because both of these guys are absolutely fantastic grapplers. But the reason I'm picking Kyle here and saying that that's the bet is because Kyle is plus money. Plus 120 for Kyle, minus 135 is the best that we can do on Godzi. I think it's a great co-main event, you guys. I think it's a fantastic stylistic matchup. I'm very much looking forward to this. Love Kyle's tattoos. Love the fighting nerds thing that he's got going on. And Godzi is one of these guys, these Russians that fights like a Russian. He wrestles first. He gets top control. He's good with submissions. He's good with takedowns. He's good with ground and pound. And they don't make a lot of mistakes when they're on top, and they win a ton of minutes there. So, yeah, I could absolutely see Omar Gadziev getting takedowns, winning a ton of minutes on the ground, and grinding out a decision here against Caio. But I think that Caio is going to make this very greasy. I think that he can potentially keep this standing for a large swath of the fight. And if he does, I think that, natural righty as a lefty, that karate stance, and the fact that he does have serious fucking power in both hands, I think it's going to give Godzi some real problems in the striking. And I think that Caio will be waiting for those takedown attempts and will be looking for a big knee when he does come in with those. We kind of saw him looking to do that a lot against Aaron Jeffrey when Jeffrey would close the distance on the Contender Series. So, yeah, pick is Caio Borralho by decision, you guys. Really looking forward to that co-main event. And frankly, I'm really looking forward to this main event, you guys. We got Belal Muhammad, remember the name, at plus 146, squaring off against Vicente Luque, minus 171, the favorite in this spot. Okay. So, give me 1 second here. Okay. Let me get to my notes and let's start breaking this one down. So it's going to be Vicente Luque, who's 3 years younger and has a 3-inch reach advantage. So Luque's got the size advantage here. And he's also got the experience advantage. He's got 5 more pro fights, 2 more UFC level fights. He's been a pro 4 years longer than Belal, and he's a much better finisher on the whole. Vicente finishes at a 90% rate as a pro, and Belal finishes at a 25% rate as a pro. Muhammad, because he goes to decision more often, has 50 more minutes in the pro cage and almost 60 more minutes in the UFC cage. In the striking, this is Luque all day, you guys. Luque has crazy power. He's landing a knockdown on over 1.25% of the total significant strikes that he's landing, and he's averaging 1.07 knockdowns per 15 minutes. Belal has been chinny thus far in the UFC, as he's absorbed 6 knockdowns in 714 significant strikes absorbed in 15 fights. So that's 0.45 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. And the only time he's ever been knocked out was by Vicente Luque earlier in his UFC career. So one of those 6 knockdowns was courtesy of Luque. But unlike Luque, Belal lands more than he absorbs, and he outvolumes his opponents. So that's how Belal wins minutes on the feet, is by throwing more volume, by pressuring, by outlanding his opponents. But Luque can lose minutes and then win a moment and change the entire trajectory of a fight. So I think that in this case, because Luque is going to be so much more dangerous on the feet, and because Belal can't just walk forward and try to drown Luque in volume, because he will eventually probably get caught, and he knows what that feels like. So I think that Luque could be the minute and moment winner on the feet in this particular matchup. When it comes to the grappling, though, you guys, these are some very interesting stats. Belal will most likely be the busier wrestler, clincher, grappler in this fight. Belal averages almost 6 takedown attempts per 15 minutes, lands 2.2 takedowns per 15 minutes, and has a 25% control time for and a 5% control time against ratio over a 198-minute sample size. He's out controlling his opponents at a 5-to-1 ratio. So 15 UFC fights that sample size is as well. So he's done a great job when the fight gets into the grappling exchanges at winning those minutes there. So he's an efficient minute winner on the ground when the matchup dictates that that's his safest path. And I believe that this matchup will be no different. Luque has shown 64.1% takedown defense over 17 UFC fights, and he has a 1-2 record when his opponents attempt more than 2 takedowns against him. So Luque does have 5 UFC wins by submission. So just because Belal takes him down, it doesn't mean that Vicente can't also be dangerous on the ground and threaten with sweeps and submissions. So, but Belal is going to have to win minutes there. He's going to have pretty much push the same type of game plan that he pushed against Stephen Thompson, because he knew that he wasn't the better striker in that matchup, and because Stephen Thompson is very difficult to strike with. He manages distance very well. He's got power. So Belal just chose to wrestle there, and he made that work. The problem with Luque is that in these 17 fights, he's only seen 3 guys attempt more than 2 takedowns in one single fight. Only 3 out of 17. That's less than 20% of his UFC fights have guys actually even attempted to wrestle with him, which is pretty bizarre for a guy who's showing, a great chin. He's only been knocked down twice in 17 fights, and he's never been knocked out. So, you can think that you're going to beat Luque in the striking exchanges, but you're probably not going to last the full 15, because he's eventually going to get you. And he's got a chin good enough to absorb what you bring his way. So I think that we're going to see Belal go to the wrestling here, you guys. And the strength of schedule is very similar. 2.02 ratio for Luque, 2.07 for Muhammad, 1.91 ratio in Luque's wins, 1.79 ratio in Belal's wins, with a little more experienced opponents. And then both of these guys are losing to opponents who have about a 2.6 to 1 win to loss ratio, and they have more than 9 total fights in the UFC. So the strength of schedule is very similar. Luque is going to be bigger and more experienced and the better striker. Luque is going to be comparable on the mat with Belal, but he could lose a bunch of minutes there. And we know that Belal is going to push a wrestling heavy game plan. And like I say, we don't really know what this fight's going to look like if Belal does push that wrestling heavy game plan this time, because we haven't seen Luque have that pace pushed on him. He's lost 2 of the 3 fights where people attempted more than 2 takedowns on him. So I think that Belal has to wrestle, and he's got to wrestle for damn near 5 full rounds here. And if he doesn't do that successfully, I think Vicente will probably find a spot to knock him out eventually. I'm going to pick Belal Muhammad to win this fight by decision. Chicago, stand up. University of Illinois, stand up. Your guy is coming to try to be the smarter fighter with and he's going to try to win this fight with his grappling, just like he did against Stephen Thompson. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I don't know how Luque is going to handle that. However, that being said, if Luque wins this fight, it's probably going to be inside the distance, because it probably means that Belal isn't having success holding down Vicente. And if he doesn't have success, he's not going to be able to knock out Vicente, because they don't allow you to bring a shovel into the cage. And Vicente is going to eventually, with that 1.26% knockdowns per total significant strikes landed, he's going to find that big knockdown and probably finish the fight on the ground. So I'll pick Belal to be a little bit different. I think the line is being a little bit disrespectful to him. And I think that Belal Muhammad by decision at Belal Muhammad by decision sitting around plus 250 is something that I'm going to be taking a look at this week. Maybe 0.4 units to win one, because I want to see somebody besides Graves and Edwards push that wrestling heavy game plan and test that part of Vicente Luque's game. I know Vicente's got great Darce chokes. I know that he's got decent takedown defense and a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, so he can swim down there. It's just that, can he avoid losing enough minutes down there in order to win this fight? And I think that Belal is just going to be pushing that pace and making him grapple more than he wants to. And I think it's actually going to work for him. So I'm picking Belal Muhammad to win this one by decision, you guys. So I think that you know what that means. You guys, it's time for what we do every Tuesday night at this time, almost midnight Central Time. We've broken down all 14 fights on the UFC Vegas 51 card. We've given you all the angles. We've given you all the stats. We even gave you a little sneak preview of what you're going to be seeing Thursday night on the MMA Engine channel for probability. But right now, you guys, here we go. Here we go. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. We've got 14 fights to choose from. We got a lot of wide lines. But I got to find something that's going to end violently. You know, boy, Luque could certainly end it violently against Bilal Muhammad. The Baeza Fiallo fight could absolutely end with somebody looking up at the lights. And I think it's going to be Fiallo. But I'm not picking Baeza. I am not giving you an ass shaving of the week that's going to be in the Wu Yanan Mayra Bueno Silva fight. Not on your life, you guys. Loosa Lazzez, don't know much about it. Clark Knight, no thank you. Lansberg Kianzad, lines too wide. Klose Jenkins, lines too wide. Garcia Ronson's a coin flip. Barnett Buday, I don't know, man. Buday's making his debut. Do I want to be on the wrong end of a spinning heel kick here? Does Trey Ogden come in and shave Jordan Leavitt's ass? I don't know, man. It's going to be close. Nunes Hughes, nope. Alateng Croom, nope. All right, you guys. I'm going to tell you who it is. Gave you a heavyweight last week. Giving you another heavyweight this week. Size matters in the heavyweight division. Martin Buday is going to be a guy who's going to use that size in order to push a game plan that Chris Barnett is not going to be able to win. I think this is going to be in the clinch. I think Barnett's going to wind up on the ground here as well. I don't think he's big enough and athletic enough to stop the takedowns of Martin Buday. I think we're going to be welcoming this kid to the UFC, and he's going to be giving us a spectacular ass-shaving performance over Huggy Bear. And I'm not picking against Huggy Bear because I'm bitter that he turned me down for the Netflix Buddy Cop series with Fat John Vellante. This is about business, you guys. This is about stacking cash tickets like flapjacks. And I'm on too much of a heater with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week to want to stop now or to want to give you a pick that I think doesn't have a chance of winning. Martin Buday at minus 220, you guys, right now, or Martin Buday inside the distance against Chris Barnett. I think we're going to see him win a ton of minutes in the clinch and on the ground and finish this fight in the second round via ground and pound knockout. Thank all of the 52 of you guys who are hanging out on a late Tuesday night with your Uncle Weezy, breaking down the UFC Vegas 51 card. I'll be back tomorrow night on my channel to do a Balls Deep breakdown or an Ask Weezy with you guys. I'll be back on Pub Sports Radio tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Central Time for the DFS show with DFS by the Numbers, with Luke from Sparring with Reality Betting, and with my guy from the MMA Engine as well, Monk Maddox. And Thursday night on the MMA Engine channel, Probability. Don't miss it. Set your calendars. You guys, thank you guys for hanging out with me. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 51. You guys, God bless each and every one of you, and I will see you tomorrow night. Take care. Be well.